What is up, guys? Kaidom here, and this is the new Jigsaw inventory system update for 4.25 and plus. Now, in my previous tutorials, we've talked about how to make your own system from scratch and, of course, handle everything yourself. Now, if you need a head start with something that you can replicate easily, the new system is here to replace the old examples. And the most important thing about this system, or this new system, I should say, is that anything can be replicated easily. So you can create like a new inventory layout or widget from scratch, and all those containers will be replicated easily. You can make loot containers, pickups, and of course loot players. All of that can be customized. You can make your own layout. Like I'm talking about the inventory layout, meaning the equipment slots, the inventory slots. Those you can make them yourself, and with the new system they can be replicated as easily. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's in this example here, and then we'll talk about how to set the loot containers, pickups, and all of that. But of course this can also work for a single player if you are working with that. So this is the new inventory, and of course, like I said, this layout right here that you can see is not necessarily what you need to use. You can of course use your own custom equipment slots. You can organize things however you want, and then the new component, which is responsible for replicating everything, will take care of everything for you. So you just need to set them up. Same for containers. Anything that you want a container to replicate, it's just a matter of adding some or changing some settings. So let's go and take a look at a container here. So these are loot containers, and when you press F, of course, you're going to have your loot container screen with the items. Loot containers can have random items, so whenever you add a new item to a container, you can decide or indicate the spawn chance. So you can have like an item spawn sometimes and sometimes not. But of course, if you want something to spawn all the time, you set the spawn chance to 100%. So left side, or right side I should say, is your inventory content. Now some popular games use this layout. They have like the inventory on the right side, equipment on the left side. A game like Tarkov uses like the content near the equipment size. Of course, with this system you can essentially work with whatever you want, and the most important thing is that the container will be replicated. The content or the layout that you choose is up to you. So these are inside the loot containers. We can have items have like default items inside them. For example, a rifle can have like by default some kind of attachment. The backpack can have by default something inside of it. This can be done for weapons and the ground and loot containers. You can set up your loot containers to have like some kind of item setup. And by the way, loot containers, characters, and the pickups all share the same component. This component is of course responsible for replicating or communicating between other components. So the idea here is that character can communicate with a pickup, and the pickup can of course communicate with the character. Character communicates with loot container. So they're all are controlled by the same system. So here in this example, we can right click, like I said, like you saw with the backpack. We can open the content of the container. You can equip, and of course same thing here. You can drop. You can also drop from the content or container, loot container. Of course you can enable or disable that. So if we want this mag to spawn, we can just drop it there, and it should spawn near the container, as you can see there. We don't have a backpack, so let's go ahead and take that. So go ahead and equip that backpack, then I can take that magazine, as you can see here. And as you can see, the weapon is spawned and attached to our character, and there you can see the mag and the suppressor installed. Of course, if we go here on our right side here, we can see that this weapon has a magazine, 545 magazine with 30 bullets pre-installed, I guess, and suppressor also pre-installed. Pay attention here. If I remove the suppressor, as you can see, the suppressor is going to disappear from there, and if I install it once again, the suppressor is going to get installed again. Of course, you can also right click, drop, or unequip the suppressor, and of course it will be added to an empty spot. And of course all this is replicated. Like anything you do is replicated, including what you do inside loot containers. So if two players are looting the same container, anything you do there will be, of course, the other player will see that you take something. They'll see that you took something, etc. Also you can consume items. If you right click here, use, it's gonna use one item there, and of course you get an event in your character, so you can decide what to do with that. Maybe you want to heal your character, etc. Same thing for when an item is added. So if we go ahead here and loot something off the ground, for example, let me get the suppressor. As you can see there on top left, you got a message saying that you picked up something, and that is an event that triggers inside the character, so you can decide what to do there. Just like the old examples, you can equip things here. We can have like a normal armor. As you can see here, this is a normal armor. Let's go ahead and drop that. Or you can have like an armored vest. So an armored vest, so it has like a inventory or has slots. So with this new system, what I decided here is one armor slot. Some armors have inventory, some don't, but you can totally like work with a tactical rig separated from the armor. You can totally do that. I run out of space for a new slot, so I decided to do it this way. And some games actually do it this way as well. So let's go ahead and equip all these things here. And as you can see, the helmet, for example, if I unequip it here to the inventory, as you can see, it gets updated. And of course, I can right click here and equip, and the helmet goes in my character. And of course, all this is replicated, like I said. So let's go ahead and pick our pants here. And of course, pants have like extra slots here, and this inventory has a scroll bar, as you can see. We have first person and third person mode as well. We can switch our weapon here, and as you can see, bottom left right there, it says 30 out of 30. That's the ammo that we have in our inventory here. And as you can see, if we go here, we can see that we have a magazine here that says 30 out of 30. Also, there's a new option for containers, GSI containers, that you can rotate the item if you want. So like you can say, okay, when an item is equipped, you can rotate it like this. So we can have this nice layout right here. So let's go ahead and switch to first person here, and I can, for example, like shoot something. As you can see, I can also have full auto if you want. And as you can see now, if we go to the here, we have 0 out of 30, and it's there as well. So let's go ahead and see if we can reload with a magazine here. So I added 3 kind of magazines here, the Mag 19 for the pistol, and of course 762 for the AK or some variant of that, and of course the 545 for like an M4. So go ahead and get the 545 here, which is the one that we need here. Let's go ahead and find some ammo in these containers. So we have like an ammo box here with some ammo, and of course these loot containers can be customized to have like specific items, and of course, like I said, you can specify the spawn chance as well. So for our case here, we need 545 here, so I'm going to go ahead and drag that there. I can also drag it over the mag if I want. I can also stack, split inside any containers here, and of course all that is replicated. Let's go ahead and see. Okay, so our current weapon has a 0, or I guess I should, here we go. So we have a 0 out of 30, of course, and here we're going to go ahead and fill that mag there, and going to reload here, and as you can see, it's going to put the empty mag here in my pants, and of course it's gonna put it either in your pants or in your armored vest or tactical rig, and of course it's going to put the new mag there, so I can now shoot there. And as you can see, it says consume there on top left as well. And so by the way, for consumables here, as you can see, we have like a hotbar here. So I have 1, 2 is primary, secondary, 3 pistol, 4 melee, and 5 and 6, these are reserved for consumables. For example, the apple here, I can drag it here or here, and of course I can press 5, and as you can see, top left there, it says consume, and of course it gets updated here. And of course, if I drop it, for example, it's going to disappear from there. So it keeps track of the item that is inside the inventory. So of course you can have like a primary, secondary, pistol, and of course you can switch between weapons as well. Like let's go ahead and switch to our pistol, and of course our pistol here, if I go down here, now of course these special containers for the weapon, we can choose to not show them here and instead like double click the weapon. You can totally do that. It's handled inside the inventory, the character inventory, so you can totally customize that if you want. And of course here you can see the different magazines. So we'll talk about that later, how to add new items, and specifically the container type items like a magazine, a backpack. Those need to be set up differently, just a little bit. So yeah, so that's our pistol right there. We currently have 0 out of 8 there, and of course you can put the mag here, put some ammo, and reload with the R or manually if you want. Of course, in terms of attachments, like I said here, let's go ahead and switch our rifle here. So if I go ahead and remove the suppressor here, if I can find it, so I can just right click here, in equip, and as you can see, it gets in equip from the weapon there, and I can of course install it back right there. So all attachments are replicated. Alright, so in terms of looting here, you can kill players or AI here, and you can loot their body. We'll see later how to set up these AI and how to like loot them and have some loot there. Of course, let's go ahead and kill this guy. So if I loot him here, as you can see, this is the dead AI. So the inventory of the dead AI and player are similar, and of course this is layout. You get of course the slots right here, and of course you can check out what they have here. Seems like he has like a shotgun with 8 bullets there, and of course he has like an armor and pants. He has some ammo there. Of course I can like take some of it there. Same thing for the other one. Let's see if I have 18 bullets. Let's see if I can kill him here. Here we go. And this guy has like has an AK, 17 bullets, and 2 magazines in his armored vest. And of course you can take these, equip them to your character, or put them in your inventory. So go ahead and take this armored vest, put it there. And of course if I double click there, as you can see, now I have the armored vest with the bullets right there. Now for vendors, they have a stock limit as well, so they can have like a stock limit. Here you can see that this vendor sells like a 496 9x19 bullet, 23 mags, 1 AK rifle, and 300 M4 there. Now notice here we have 23 mags here, so if I buy this one here, of course I'm going to use money here to pay, so 200 there. If we hover there, it says 200 for the price, and the stock here is updated to 22. And of course if I sell this mag, it's going to go up to 23. So there's an option here for if the vendor should keep the item that you sell to the vendor. So for example, if I sell something else that the vendor doesn't sell, for example, let's say I sell an apple here. So we see that vendor doesn't sell apples. So should this vendor try to sell that apple to someone else? So it's like you sell an apple to the vendor, and the vendor can like keep it there for sale. So you can enable that option or not. So like I said, this AK here, only 1 AK. So if I buy it, as you can see, now you can't buy anymore. And of course if I sell it, now it goes back to 1 there. So this one was for 1700, and of course we got half there. So the vendor will give you half the price. And of course, like I said, if we have, for example, like an apple, and then we sell it to a vendor, for example, this one right here, if I sell the apple to the vendor, it'll keep it there, and now you can buy it back. But of course, you sold it for half the price, and now you have to pay double, of course, normal vendor stuff there. So yeah, another thing here is crafting. So if we press C here, we have craftable items, and this is the required item. So if I select the shotgun, it says that I need a pistol and some 4 shotgun shells. Now of course it's just an example, you can set them to be like more appropriate, but for now, an armor, you need pants and a mag, suppressor as well. So this is the button to craft, and as you can see it's grayed out because it's saying that you don't have the needed ingredients here. So let's see what we need for the suppressor. So we need 10 762 ammo, so let's go ahead and get our hands on those. I need 10 here, so I can just grab it from the ammo container here. So let's see if we have enough. Okay, so we have 45 762s. Let's go ahead and stack those. So I have 45, got more than enough here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do a C there. I can also do tab to show the inventory. You can also try to embed this crafting widget with the inventory itself. So for now, we just left it independent in case you might want to add it somewhere else. So it should work just fine. So we're gonna go ahead and select the suppressor here, and now I can craft because I have 10 here. Oh, I need 10 and I have more than 10. So I go ahead and click on craft. Of course, it's gonna wait a little bit there, and of course in the inventory here, I have the suppressor there. I can install it to my pistol here. So I was going to pull the pistol, and as you can see, well, I guess the suppressor is blue and the pistol is blue as well, but the suppressor is there. We can even try to remove it, as you can see. There you go. So that is crafting. Crafting is super easy to set up. It's and the character, and I'll show you that later. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the folders here. So this is the main folder, and now we have Jigsaw folder and demo. Jigsaw folder is all about data, all about the Jigsaw inventory widgets. But demo here and demo folder, we have pickups, we have vendors. So this is where we have the map, of course, the widgets for the main inventory character, special containers for weapons, etc. So let's go ahead and talk about those one by one. So we'll start with the inventory, or the character inventory here. So I'm gonna go to widgets here, where here we go. So this is the BP main inventory, and as you can see, this is just a bunch of equipped to GSI containers. So of course you can create another inventory layout, and of course have that be working with your character just fine. So we'll go to the character here and open that. And so this BP Jig multiplayer is used in the character, is used in the pickup system, used in the vendor, and also an AI, or anything that should have like some sort of inventory, or the Jigsaw inventory in general. So it is responsible for replicating the inventory, so you can interact with the component, and it will send the inventory data, and of course you can interact with it. So the main idea here is that the components can interact with each other. So the component of the character can interact with the component of the loot container or the vendor. And this one is for the menu, or right-click menu of Jigsaw. So let's go ahead and select the multiplayer here. And what you can see here is, first of all, the component type. So we have a main character, which is the playable character. We have a loot container, vendor, and pickup. And of course, this component will adapt to whatever component type this is. And of course, when a player dies, for example, the component type will go from main character to loot container, so that you can loot the player when they die. And of course, we have a spawn feature as well. So if you die, you can respawn with a new character, and you can even loot your own body if you want. So this is main character. First, we need to indicate that this is a main character. This is the inventory widget, so you indicate the widget here. Same for loot containers, we'll see that later. So the BP main inventory is just the one that we're looking at right now. So you indicate that there, and the component will create the inventory. Allow dropping items, so this indicates whether you can drop items or not. So currently in loot containers and in the character itself, you can drop the items, and vendors you can't, of course, normal. This is the vendor accepted currency. So when you buy something, the vendor will accept this kind of currency. So you need to go to the data table here, whatever data table you have, and then of course indicate the currency that you want the vendor to accept. And of course you'll be paid with the same currency as well. And of course you indicate where that currency is. This is the option that I was talking about with vendors. So vendor resell sold items. So if you sell something to the vendor, you can enable that vendor to essentially sell that item back to whoever wants to buy it, of course. This is the crafting section here. So this is only valid for the main character. So we'll talk about crafting in a moment, but for now, the most important thing is how to set up your containers. So we see here that we have 13 equip tools. Now, they don't have to be equip tools, of course. You can add another inventory, you know, like a 3x3 or something. But we have 13 containers here. So what you do here is you go to your component. So let's say you created a new inventory widget. So what you need to do here is you need to go to the container settings here. So as you can see here, I have 13 containers. Of course, from 0 to 12 is 13. Of course, you're gonna click on the plus sign here, and of course add your containers based on, of course, this widget right here. So in this widget we have 13 containers, and here we indicate all those containers. Essentially what we do here is we just give some name. Now this name here, this ID, will be used later to determine what when like an action happen in a certain container, you can know what kind of container that was with the ID here. Now this is not this is important mainly in the main character, and of course in a lootable character as well. So if you loot a character and you take out their weapon, of course you need to know where that weapon or that item got taken out, so you can of course destroy the weapon or whatever. So loot containers, you don't have to do assign ID, but -1 it means that it's an equip to. So if you select this container right here, we can see that the type is equipped to. Now when it comes to type, an equip to, you don't care about the columns and rows, because any item dimension can be equipped. Like a rifle with 5x2, it can be equipped to a 1x1 equip to, but of course an inventory type you can't. So this is mainly for equip to. So if the container is equipped to, just make it here set -1. If it's something else, if it's an inventory type, you indicate the column and rows, and we'll see that with the loot container. So this is pretty straightforward. You just indicate all your containers here, primary, backpack, secondary, and just indicate the columns and rows. And since they're all equipped tos, we simply indicated that -1. So this is step number 1. Step number 2 is that you want to go to your widget class here. Of course, open your inventory, and this is true also for all containers, loot containers, and vendors as well. So you want to go to the graph section, then class settings, and then you want to go here and add the GSI special widget interface. This is very important. So if you create a new inventory, make sure you add the GSI special widget interface. And what this does is that it adds some new functions here that will help the component determine to like know about your GSI containers, and of course get the list of your containers. So here we have get GSI container by player slot. So if we go here, as you can see, it wants the container reference, which is the equip to here in this case, using a slot here. So based on if it's a primary, I will return the primary container here. So if I select it there, as you can see, the primary here. Also for the rotation here, you can enable it here, rotate equipped image. And also you can hide the slot image when equipped if you have like a image of a rifle, for example, when it's not equipped. So see primary, I return that, should return it here if it's a primary here. So you can, like, if you're gonna make a new inventory, just you can duplicate this one and then delete and recreate your containers there. But mainly here you need this, very important, to return the list of containers based on the slot. And of course here we'll simply return in whether it's pinned in here, also if it's equipped or not, or get the equipped item. Now that is the first option here. So this is the first function that you need to take care of. The second function here is get drop widget. This is the drop widget right here. So if we go here and then go all the way up there, we have the drop item back G widget. This is a widget that is responsible for dropping items. So when you drag and drop some item, this widget right here will fire an event that the component is handling so you can drop your items. So make sure that you add this drop item widget here, so you can like search for it here. So drop item here, back widget here, and of course add it to your inventory and return it here in this function right here. So get drop widget here, so you just need to return that reference. So that's the function number 2. And number 3 here is you need the get list of containers. Very important. We need to return the get GSI container by not that one, but get list of containers. Very important. So this is where you return all your containers, and you need to make sure that the order is respected here based on this one right here. So we have, let's see, we have head, upper armor, and as you can see here, it should pretty much be the same thing, head, upper armor. So you need to respect the order here. I mean, you can either like start with this function and then based on this order set up your inventory here, or start here first, then based on that return your containers here. But just make sure that this order here is the same as this order here. So that's pretty much it. So everything else here in the event graph is just responsible for binding the equipment events and then just adding that the equipment content to the inventory to be shown here. So that's step number 1. And just while we add it here, so if we select this container here, a loot container here, this is the main loot container class. If I go to demo here and then loot containers here, so this is the main class, which is this one, and you can just create child classes and then of course set them up like differently. like we have here. So we have like 3 childs. They're all, so all these 3 here are inherit from this one. So here we're going to just mainly talk about the same thing. So BP Jig multiplayer, the same thing here. So as you can see, we can look for the inventory widget. So it's just another widget with some GSI containers. So you can set the containers however you want, but of course, very important is that you also want to do the same thing here at the GSI special widget, and of course return the containers, get list of containers. And of course in this case we only need this function right here, we don't need the other ones here. So, and once again, respect the order. So we have main container be first, so that is a 6x6. So we go back to loot container here, and then we enter both containers here. So first one is a 6x6 and the second one is a 6x3. To make a new container, we can first make a new widget, of course. So let's go to the widgets here. And of course, to avoid having to like set the interface every time you create a new widget, you can simply like duplicate one of these. So we could duplicate like the weapon case here. So I'm going to go ahead and do duplicate here. And I'm going to name it BP like new loot container. So of course I'm going to open that, and we could keep it like a 6x6, that's fine. And of course you want to go to the interface here and make sure that you are returning the container. So get list of containers, we only have one, so we'll return that there. So it's a 6x6. And then what you want to do next here is we want to go to the loot containers and make a child out of the BP MP loot container here. So you want to right click here and create a child, and I'm just gonna leave it like a child or whatever. So I'm gonna open that, and of course you can here customize the look of your container. Just put that there. So I'm going to select the BP Jig multiplayer here, and what you need to do here is I'm gonna go ahead and do a clear here, everything just clear, just as normal here. So what you need to do here, first of all, make sure that this is a loot container type here. So we're gonna set that there. And then next we want to indicate the widget of this loot container, which is the one that we created earlier. So new loot widget, and of course we know that there's only one container, so let's go ahead and add it there, and the container settings right there. So it is, I can give it a name if I want. In this case it's not important, so I'm just going to go ahead and 6x6 right there. And now I can indicate what this loot container should have as content. So we can click on the plus sign, and we can, for example, add a backpack. So let's go ahead and add a backpack. And of course, this backpack is inside the armor data table. And this is where you indicate your spawn chance, of course, if you want to have random like items inside this container. So this is our backpack. Let's just say that I want an apple to be inside this backpack. This is where you add in container item here, and you want to expand that. And let's say I want, for example, an apple inside that backpack. And of course this apple is under consumables, and here the type here is not important, you can leave it site. This type is going to be used later for the ammo inside the mag. So for now you can just leave it site by default, it doesn't matter because it's an apple, it's not a ammo or a magazine. So just make sure you don't set it to magazine or ammunition, just make sure it's by default site, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so for the apple here, let's just say 5 for example. So that is our first item here, and let's go ahead and take it step by step here. So if I go ahead and put this loot container here, and of course I can give it a name if I want as well. So let's see, we have here class defaults, we have container name, let's just see some loot container for example. So let's go ahead and loot this container here and see what we have here. So if I play here and go ahead and check out this container, as you can see it says interact with some loot container, and as you can see we have the backpack, and inside the backpack we have those 5 apples. So that would work for a lot of items. So there are only 2 cases here that you need to understand. First is weapons that with attachments, so you need to understand the where the attachment should go in terms of index, and of course the magazine with ammo. So let's go ahead and start with the magazine here with some ammo inside. So it's pretty much the same process here. You just simply indicate the magazine. In case I'm gonna do the mag 762, which is in the attachment here. Let's see here. So as you can see here, this is mag 762, and I want to add the ammo here, which is the 762 by 39. So let's go ahead and add those. So first of all, I'm going to add the magazine, indicate that it's under attachments here, and spawn chance is 100. Min and max here, I don't care about those because the mag doesn't stack. And now to add some ammo to this magazine, I'm going to click here in container item. I'm going to add a new entry here and expand that and say, okay, I want 762 by 39 there. Of course, it's still under attachments there. And for the count is 30 here. And as for the type here, you want to leave it by default sight. Don't select ammunition or magazine here because it might conflict with some other settings. So for now, just leave it sight. Later, I'll show you where that ammunition helps. But for now, we have a magazine here, a Mag 762 with some ammo inside, which is 30 here. So if I go ahead and play and check out my container here, I should have like a magazine there with 30 bullets, as you can see. Okay, so now what we want to do here is we want to add a weapon with some attachments inside. So that is pretty much the same process. So we want to click here. Let's just say I want to add the rifle, which is the M4. It exists in weapons. Spawn chance is 100 for sure. So in container item here, this is where you indicate your attachments. So here I can say, okay, I need a suppressor here. For this rifle here. So suppressor is under attachment. This is the type. Now once again, the type here doesn't really matter, but you can select a muzzle if you want. So this type right here only matters for magazines that are inside weapons. In this case, we will add a magazine, and in that case we will indicate that it's a mag, and then add some ammo to that mag as well, and then indicate that it's ammunition. So this is the only case where you need to indicate the type, so the component knows what you're trying to do. So, but in this case, we're just trying to add an item to another item. You don't care about the type here, so you can leave it sight for if you want, or muzzle, it doesn't matter really. So the add to container index here, so the weapon has like a special container where you have multiple attachment containers. So this is like the index. Where do you want to add it? So in this case, what we can do here is, if we go to weapons here, the data table, and select that rifle, and then go all the way down to the special container here. So this rifle has special container widget set to SC attachment, which is this one right here, which is just the attachment container that you see. So that in container is essentially what container you want to put that attachment. So in this case, it's a muzzle, but how do you know? It's essentially the same thing here. So if you go to class settings, we have the same GSI special widget interface, and of course we have that get list of containers, and this is the index. As you can see, the muzzle is under index 2, so we have 0, 1, 2, so you need to indicate that you want to add that muzzle to here. So the index is essentially just determined by this function right here. So since we are returning muzzle as index 2, so that means that here we need to set that to 2 as well. So I'm adding a suppressor to my rifle here. Type doesn't matter, like I said. So add to index here is going to be number 2, based on the special container, of course. And of course later I'll show you how to add new weapons with the different special containers. So if I go here, and as you can see, the rifle has a suppressor, and of course it's under index 2. So now we want to add a mag to this container, to this weapon, and then of course the mag is, if we go back to the special container, we can see that the mag is the first thing returned here. So index 0. So let's go ahead and take care of that. So we can click on here. This is, once again, it's under rifle, and we're adding to in container item there. So I'm gonna add a magazine here. So the mag 45 is just named the mag here. It's this one right here. So let's go ahead and add that. So mag, and of course the type here. Now you can indicate the type here now. So if you can set mag here, and of course for the container index is 0 because it's the first one. Let's go ahead and check if we successfully added the mag there, and as you can see, the mag got added. Now we need to add ammo to this mag right here. So once again, that's pretty easy. So all you need to do here is just add another item here. So this is where, since we're adding multiple items to the same rifle, this is where you need to indicate that this is ammunition here, and this is a mag right here. So here I want to add like some 545 by 39. Existing attachments. Of course, this is, once again, you need to indicate that it's ammunition here for that to work. First, you indicate the mag. So always, if you want ammo and a mag, first add the mag, then the ammo, and of course indicate that this is a mag and the type. So this is the only case where the type here matters, is where you want to add a mag to a weapon. So of course, first you add the mag and you say, okay, it's a mag, and then you add the ammo and you indicate that it's ammunition. So and this way, the system will know that you're trying to add the ammo to the mag. So in this case, we'll add 30 once again, and of course the end container is 0 because the mag only has one container, and for the end container for the mag is 0 as well because in the special container we have the mag returned first. So now we should see a rifle with 30 bullets, as you can see. So the rifle right there has 30 bullets of whatever type you added there, and the suppressor there. So it's essentially the same thing for all the other attachments. Just go ahead and add them to their respective container index. So that's pretty much it for containers, really. This works for vendors as well. It's the same thing for vendors. So if we take a look at the vendor here, this guy, for example, open edit blueprints, select the BP Jig multiplayer. As you can see here, if we go ahead and go to the widget here, so it's a BP vendor widget, go ahead and open that, and as you can see, this is a 10 by 8, and of course it also has the same interface function here. So get list of containers, it's going to return that one container, and of course inside the component here we set the container to 8 by 10, the same thing. And for the starting items here, you just indicate your starting items. As you can see, we're selling a rifle, and the spawn chest 100. The random, min, and max is now for the vendor is considered the stock size, of course, of the vendor here. So this vendor sells like 300 rifles, and of course for the other rifle only one, etc. So it's essentially the same process. You simply add your items there, and they will be sold by the vendor. And of course, the only thing that you need to do here, very important, is to check or set the MP component type to vendor. And of course, you can check this option if you want as well. And of course, set the currency accepted by this vendor and where it exists. Now, as for the vendor here, it's under the vendors folder here, and you can simply right-click and create a child or duplicate this existing child. As for AI, they're pretty much the same concept. If we select this AI right here, and we can see that this AI, now of course you can set your mesh to look visually however you want here, but essentially it's the same thing. So we see that this AI has some pants and a rifle. So if we select the BP Jig multiplayer here, we can see that it's essentially the same thing, except that of course this guy has the BP Dead Player Loot widget. So if you go there and open that widget, as you can see, it's similar to the main player's inventory. And here we have 13 widgets as well. So once again, the same concept. Go to the get list of containers, and of course return your 13 containers. Respect the order here. So if you have this order like this, then of course inside the AI here, you need to set up those container settings similar to that thing. Here, of course, you need to indicate the upper and names here. So like I said, when you take a weapon from this AI, like you can still see it in the world, but once you take it, of course, it'll get destroyed. So we use this IDs here to determine which container the item got removed from or added to. And as you can see here, since like I said, this guy has some weapons, so we can go to the primary here. So this AI has like a primary, so you simply go to the primary here, starting items, and you simply add a rifle 2, for example, or whatever you want. And then of course when you kill this AI and loot the AI, you will see that he has like a rifle there. Of course, same concept here. If you want to add attachments to that weapon, of course you just add, in this case we're adding like a mag to it, some ammo. As you can see, we have the mag here, type mag, ammo, type ammo, same thing. So like I said, this right here, the type only applies when you're adding a mag with ammo to a rifle or something like that. And of course he has pants here, so let's see where pants is. Here we go. So for pants, we have the pants here. So for starting items is pants from the armor, and of course if you want that pants or if you want pants to have like some extra items, you can just add them here. So it's essentially the same concept. So for pickups here, we have skeletal and static mesh pickups. Now for weapons, for example, we have them under the skeletal mesh here. So this is our main skeletal mesh. Of course, this is where all the skeletal mesh pickups will be based off. It has like basic interaction here. This is the interface for interaction. So all the loot container and everything that you can interact with has the same interface and the same functions. So we have the rifle here. that is of course a child of this main pickup class. So this is our rifle here. This is the main firearm. This is where all the reload and shooting logic is, and then of this class we have our rifles here. So if you want to make more weapons, just go ahead and right click and duplicate. So if we open this stock rifle, now I'll show you later how to add like some pickups to the data table, but for now, if it's like a weapon and you want this weapon to start with some attachments, let's go ahead and actually duplicate this one right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do duplicate here, and let's just call it my like my new rifle here, for example. So let's go ahead and open the blueprint here, and of course I'm gonna leave it look like the same here. So I'm gonna drag it here, and of course inside this weapon you have of course your like reload, switch animations or montages, whether this is a full auto or not, the fire rate, the sound, etc., all these settings. But of course for the attachments you have this default attachments here. So for this default attachments here, you're gonna have it empty like that, and of course the supported mags here, very important. You need to indicate your the mags that are supported by this weapon. So this is used for reloading. So when you reload, this weapon is going to search for these mags in your inventory. So first of all, you will have of course this cleared, but you can indicate what kind of ammo this is here, like the default ammo that you need. So in this case we have it like be 545 by 39. It exists in the attachment data table. Type is ammunition, and of course the count is 30. But of course first you need to add your attachments here. So default attachments, you want to click here. Let's just say that this weapon starts with a suppressor, and of course this is under attachments, and then of course the type here, very important, you need to indicate that it's a muzzle. Of course the add to container index, very important. Once again, we know that this weapon uses the SC attachment, a special container, and the suppressor is index 2. And of course here let's go ahead and add a mag, and this guy is going to use a mag here, so the 545 is called mag here, and of course you need to indicate that it's a mag here. And index container is 0 because the mag is the first container, and of course this is where you indicate your ammo. So now we should have this weapon start with a suppressor and a magazine, and as you can see it does. So if we equip it there, as you can see it has a mag with 30 bullets and a suppressor. So yeah, that's pretty much how you set up your default attachments there. So the last thing that we're going to talk about here, just in terms of setup here, is your pickups. So how to add new pickups. So GSI uses data tables. So you have these data tables, you can duplicate them, you can have like multiple data tables if you want. So let's go ahead and add a new pickup here. So I'm going to data tables here, I'm going to weapons, so I'm going to add a weapon here. So I'm going to click on the plus sign here, and then say rifle 3, for example. And for the item ID, very important, so the item ID needs to be the same as the row name here. So in this case, rifle 3. For the type here, it's going to be a rifle, common. I guess I can select rare there. So can it stack or not? Of course, this is a rifle, it's not going to stack. Now for the max stack here, you want to leave it 1 because this is typically used either for stackable items or a container with a capacity, for example, a magazine. So if I go here to attachments and select the mag, what you're going to see here is the max stack here is set to 30, even though the can stack is set to false. Now this serves like two purposes essentially. So it can be treated as like a max stack for something that stacks, like ammo, or it can be treated as a capacity container. So if you set 30 here, for example, for the max stack, and then this is false, then that means that this magazine is a container, but is limited to 30 items. But of course you need to set it to be container here, and we'll see that later here with the weapon here. So I'll go back to weapons. So my rifle 3, I could select just the rifle once again, just use that one, rifle here. And here it's still dimensions. Of course I'm going to make it a 5 by 2 for the count, weight, all that. You can customize them however you want. Item name, just new rifle there, and of course display name can be the same as well if you want, or just like I guess M4 for example. So you can customize all these things. Let's go ahead and also create a pickup here before we continue with this. So I'm gonna go to skeletal, firearm, rifle, and then I'm going to duplicate this one. So I'm going to duplicate, and I'm going to name it rifle 3. And then I'm going to change the color here to red, for example. The very important here is you want to go to class defaults, and then under settings here you have item ID and data table. So here you need to set the ID here to rifle 3 in our case, and the data table is weapons. Okay, so now I can drop the rifle 3 in the world here. And of course, very important is you need to go back to your weapon data table here, and here indicate the actor class. So that would be the rifle 3, I think. Yep, that's rifle 3 right there. So of course, before we can pick this like the rifle here, you need to first set the data table here. So we're working under rifle, so you just set the same data table you're using right now. So that's gonna be weapons right there. We indicated where this item exists, which is essentially just the same data table. So now I can actually pick it up if I want. So if I go to this I keep saying data table. If the rifle, which is pick up new rifle, I can pick it up, and as you can see, I have the rifle equipped there. And as you can see, we don't have an inventory here because it's not a container yet, of course. So in this case, there are two types of containers: normal container and special container. So we'll talk about normal container first. So we can go here. Now this is something you would do for like a backpack or a wallet. So what you can do here is say, okay, it's a container first. And then say container dimensions. You can set it like to be 3 by 3, for example. So now it is a container. So I can now go ahead and pick up the rifle here. Here we go. And as you can see, it is a 3 by 3. But of course, you don't want this for a rifle. This would be like I said, a backpack or some sort of simple container. For a rifle, you need a special container, and you can go to demo here, widgets here, and we have special containers. A special container is a widget with multiple GSI containers. And here, as you can see, we have this example right here. So I'm gonna create a new one from scratch to just show you how it's done. So what you want to do here is you want to go user interface here, and you want to create a new widget blueprint. I'm gonna call it BP my special rifle widget. So of course, typically you would want to duplicate these and just modify them slightly, but in this case I'm just gonna make a simple special container with a sight and a suppressor attachment, or a magazine, whatever you want. So I'm gonna delete the canvas here because I don't need it, and I'm gonna actually add a vertical box here. So I'm gonna keep it simple. I'm not gonna add any text or names or whatever. You can do that if you want. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep it real simple. So of course you want to add GSI container. So you just look for GSI. You want to add the GSI container here. So of course this is an inventory type. We don't want that. We want to change the container type to equip to, and it's now going to be a 1 by 1 here. Let's go ahead and change from fill screen to desired there. So it is an equip to, and for number from column it's going to be 1 by 1, of course. So let's go ahead and make this our site here. Okay, so site container, and like I said, I'm not going to add any visual like text or something. I'm just going to keep it simple, and I can add a spacer here. I'm just showing you the functionality essentially. So there, and then I'm going to add another GSI here to the vertical box, make it an equip to. And this time I'm going to make it like a magazine slot. So let's make that a 120 there. And of course you can select the container, go to the supported item types, make sure that it supports weapon attachments. So we're going to make it support weapon attachment, and then on the IDs here, let's just go ahead and do it supports sight. So here you can indicate the specific sites that you want this site to site container to support. We have a site and data table. You can here indicate whatever attachment you want it to support. Here I'm going to make this support also weapon attachments, and for the specific types it's going to be a mag 545. Okay, so that's the mag that's going to support. Now once you work on your widget, place your GSI container whatever you want. Very important, you want to go to the graph section here, you want to go to the class settings here, and then you want to add the GSI interface. Okay, so this is very important. You are going to have two functions that are very important. First one is get list of containers. In this case, you want to do make add 2 because we have 2. So I'm gonna add the mag here. Let me actually go ahead and rename that. So it's gonna be mag there. So I'm gonna return mag first, and then the site. Okay, so mag then site right there. So very important. The order doesn't really matter. So it only matters when you want to set the default attachments, and also when you add it to the loot containers. If you remember, we have that in container index option. This is it. This is 0. This is 1. So if you want to add a site by default, you want to here you want to indicate 1 as the in container index, because the site is number 1 here. And of course, get container by attachment type. And here you want to do select, and then you want to drag this type here, and then it's gonna want you to return a certain attachment container by its type. So we only have 2 here, so we're gonna do the site goes here, the mag goes here. And of course, one more thing here is you want to go to your CC attachment here and copy, and you want to copy this. So we're going to copy that and paste it here. Okay, so this is where you add your logic for the this specific special container. So we're going to go ahead and create that variable there. So since this is a weapon, as soon as we get the reference of the item itself, we show the weapon capacity. And here I'm going to replace that mag container with my mag here. There, and of course this is just responsible for showing the mag size and also telling the player to update the ammo. So like I said, you can just duplicate one of the special containers and simply modify, but in this case we're doing it from scratch to just show you what you can do. In this case, if the muzzle is equipped, we can change the image of the item to a suppressed image. So that would be the, now we don't have a muzzle here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and remove that. But if you want to check out the other SC attachment to see how that's done. So this is our special container, as you can see, very simple. So what you want to do here now is 2 things. First, that's the in a weapon here, you want to indicate the special container that you want to use, which is in our case here. So BP, BP my special rifle widget. First of all, you want to indicate it here, and then very important, so for this to be recognized by the server, you need to indicate the special container dimensions, which is this variable right here. So we know that in this special container, we know that we have 2 containers and they're both equipped tos. As you can see here, equipped to, equipped to. So there are 2 containers, so we need to go ahead and set these 2 containers. So if I go to data table here, so I need to add 2 to the special container dimensions here. So 1, 2, and because they're equipped tos, you need to set this -1, -1, -1, -1. Okay, and that's it. So now if we go and pick up our rifle, we should have that special container right here. So this is a site container and this is a magazine container. And as you can see, we have the 0, 0 there added. So everything should work as intended. Now let's take another example here. So we have the SP backpack. This backpack has 2 containers. This is a special container, of course. It has a 5x5 and a 2x5. And if we go to the graph, as you can see, because this is not a weapon, we only have this if you need it. This is the backpack item itself. So once again, it has the same thing, get list of containers. This one doesn't need this because it's not a weapon, but it has this one, very important, get list of containers. It returns both containers. Now the backpack, very important, if you go to the armor here, the backpack is marked as a container and also has the special container here, set, SP backpack. And then the container dimensions, like I said, we have 2, a 5x5 and a 5x2. So very important, for the server to work, you need to indicate these dimensions here. Now, if you have a special container, this doesn't matter right here. So this, you can like leave it 0x0 or whatever, so it doesn't really matter. But it only matters if there are no special container and you want it to be a simple 3x3 or whatever, then you indicate it here. So for the context menus, here you can select or set whatever options are enabled or available. So you click on the plus sign here, you can select, we have open, equip, unequip, and drop. So these like are the available context menus that this item should have. And of course, for like a vendor, for example, if we take a look at the widget here, we can like disable certain context menus here. So if I go to the widget here and then select the container, I can go here and I see do not allow context menus. As you can see here from the vendor, we disabled the open, drop, equip, and unequip because in a vendor, we don't need to drop items. We're not allowed to drop items, so we disabled those options so that they're not shown to the player. All right, so lastly, we're gonna talk about the crafting. So the crafting system is essentially, if you select the BP Jig multiplayer here, you have this crafting section right there. So in here, you simply add the item to craft. So in this case, armor, where it exists. And of course, you need to indicate the items needed. So in this case, to craft this armor, we need pants and we need, let me expand that. We need a magazine 19, one, of course, that's the count. So it's simply just add your items here and just indicate whatever items needed. So in this case, as you can see, item to craft, suppressor. What do you need for the suppressor? You just need 762 by 39. You need 10 of them, and that's pretty much it. Like, just indicate them here, and you can see that based on what you're entered, you're gonna get the items that you can craft, and of course whatever needed here. And if you have them in your inventory, then you can craft here, and it will be added to your inventory if the operation is successful. So for attachments and the way they get installed on the weapon, we use a data table called local attachments. So if we go to pickups here, so we have local attachments. So if we open that, as you can see, we have this main local attachment, this class right here, and you can right-click create a child or duplicate one of these. So essentially what happens here is that we have a data table where we indicate what is the pickup that needs to be installed on the weapon, of course based on the ID here. So for example, we have a site. Now when you enter an ID here or a new item here, you need to make sure that this ID is the same in the pickup data table. So if we go here, data tables, and then attachments, so we have suppressor here. So what we need to do here is we need to go to the local attachment, indicate that suppressor here, the same ID from the other data table. Then you need to indicate what socket this suppressor should be attached to. And then of course the ID here, and then the type muzzle, and then the actor that should be attached to the weapon, which is in this case this local suppressor. So this is the blueprint that will be attached to the weapon itself. So that's for local attachment. So if you create a new attachment, just make sure you indicate in the data table, indicate the local attachment that should be installed on the weapon. As far as weapons, so for weapons we have equipment mesh plus socket. Well, not just weapon, equipment in general. So for the rifle, for example, we have it here. So once again, the same ID from the other from the main pickup data table. So we enter it here, and then we indicate the equipment socket. So we have equip to, this is where it should be equipped if you have it equipped to the main hand, and if it's not, we have rifle holder 1 and 2. So this is your unequipped socket 1 and 2. So it's the same concept here, but for equipment like a helmet, gloves, you do the same thing, but instead of indicating socket, you indicate a skeletal mesh. So this is it for this example. This is just it's generally just an overview. I'll be making more videos about this, but this is essentially the replicated version of Jigsaw inventory system. If you need to make your entire system from scratch, I have like a 3-part video where I explain how to do it step by step. So if you want to learn more about how to work with Jigsaw from scratch, you can check those out. So this multiplayer is, of course, if you need a good starting point, or if you can totally make your own example and only use the Jig multiplayer here to replicate your containers. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, leave them below. And until then, take care. See you later. Goodbye.